Have you ever really thought about where your money goes? I mean, its journey. It's a path that starts right there in your wallet. But believe it or not, it ends up shaping the biggest power plays on the world stage. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow the money and see just how deeply your finances are connected to global power.
We all feel it, right? At the grocery store, at the gas pump, prices are just going up. But did you ever stop and wonder if inflation, this rising cost of living, hits everyone in the exact same way? Well, the short answer is a hard no. And the reason why reveals something pretty fundamental. The very creation of money isn't some neutral event. It's an act that creates winners and losers from the absolute start. To really wrap our heads around that unequal impact, we have to go back to the beginning. We need to trace the path of new money from the moment it's literally created to the moment it finally ends up in our hands. Think of it like following a river all the way back to its source. And that source brings us to a really crucial idea, the Cantillon effect. It's a theory from an 18th century economist, and the concept is actually pretty simple but totally profound. Whoever gets their hands on new money first wins. Why? Because they get to spend it at today's prices, before that new money ripples through the whole economy and pushes everyone else's prices up. Okay, so if getting the money first is the name of the game, the big question is, who's at the front of the line? In our modern financial system, where does new money actually enter the economy? So here's the modern playbook. A central bank, like the Federal Reserve, creates new money out of thin air. But it doesn't just, hand it out to everybody. No, it's injected into the financial system, which means commercial banks and huge financial institutions get it first. And what do they do with it? They buy assets, stocks, bonds, real estate. This, in turn, inflates the prices of those assets. It's only way, way later that the money trickles down to the rest of us, and usually it's in the form of higher prices for, well, everything. And this quote, which is adapted from Cantillon's original work, just nails the outcome perfectly. The first receivers, the folks in the financial markets, they see their wealth balloon. Meanwhile, the last receivers, that's regular people earning a wage, we just see our money buying less and less. Our purchasing power goes down. And boom, that is the engine of the wealth gap, right there. The value of assets, which are overwhelmingly owned by the wealthy, inflates first and fastest. By the time the rest of us feel the effects, it's not in our own rising wealth, it's in our rising costs. But this story doesn't just stop at the border. Oh no, it goes global, and it gets amplified by the totally unique role of one single currency, the US dollar. This is what's famously been called its exorbitant privilege.
You see, the dollar's top dog status wasn't some accident. It was built piece by piece over decades. It was officially cemented as the world's anchor currency back in 1944 at the Bretton Woods Conference. And even after the U.S. ditched the gold standard in '71, the dollar's central role was already locked in. Today, it's the world's money.
And if you want to get a sense of just how massive this dominance is, get this. Research from the London School of Economics shows that about 2/3, 66% of all U.S. dollars are physically circulating outside the United States. It is truly a global currency.
So what does this exorbitant privilege actually get the U.S.? Well, because the whole world needs and wants dollars, the U.S. government can borrow money more cheaply. It can run massive trade deficits without facing the same consequences other countries would. And this is the real kicker, it can turn the entire financial system into a powerful tool of foreign policy. And this is where our story takes a really sharp turn. We're now moving from economics into the world of financial warfare, where the world's currency gets weaponized. The dollar isn't just a medium of exchange anymore. In the 21st century, it can be deployed with the kind of force you'd expect from a weapon system. So how does that even work? Through something called financial sanctions. Because most international trade, for oil, for food, for pretty much everything, is priced and settled in dollars. And because those transactions have to pass through banks linked to the US, America can effectively flip a switch and cut an entire country off from the global financial network. And here's the thing. Trying to get around these sanctions is next to impossible. Since nearly every major bank on the planet needs access to the dollar system to do business, it's incredibly difficult for a country that's been targeted to find a workaround. It's like a financial blockade that you just can't break. Now, you can imagine, when one country has that much power, the power to lock anyone out of the global economy, other countries start looking for their own set of keys. This has kicked off a massive global conversation around something called de-dollarization. And this quote from Brazil's President Lula, speaking at a summit of the BRICS nations, just says it all. It's a simple question with enormous consequences. Why should our economic futures depend on the currency and the policies of one single country?
So what you have now is this clear tension. On one side, there's the system we've got now, totally centered on the US dollar. But on the other side, you have all these alternatives starting to bubble up. Countries are moving their reserves into other currencies, they're setting up direct swap lines to trade with each other while bypassing the dollar, and they're even talking about creating a whole new shared currency. But, and this is a really big but, it's one thing to talk about dethroning the king, it's another thing entirely to actually do it. The world needs a safe place to park trillions of dollars, and right now, nothing on earth compares to the size and safety of the US Treasury market. A new currency would face huge trust issues. The dollar's network is just so deeply entrenched.
So, after all that, where are we? Well, we're standing at this critical moment, looking at a global financial order that is clearly changing, with a future that really hasn't been written yet.
And that brings us full circle. That feeling of prices going up that starts in your wallet is connected by this long, invisible thread to the wealth gap at home, to America's power on the world stage, and to the geopolitical conflicts that are shaping our future. It really does all follow the money.
Which leaves us with the central dilemma. A future where the dollar is no longer the undisputed king seems to be slowly but surely coming into view. But the big question is, would that world be more stable and more balanced, or would the absence of a single global anchor currency unleash a whole new kind of unpredictable chaos? That is the multi-trillion-dollar question for the 21st century.